after for its ability to induce euphoria, often described as a feeling of well-being, which can endure for up to 24 hours. According to an LDEA release, as part of the agency's initial scientific investigation on samples of these natural plants, the examination results revealed the presence of illicit drug, which is contained under the United Nations listing for illegal narcotic drugs. LDEA said it is initiating a full-scale investigation into the importation and illegal possession of said narcotic drug and will involve all those that may have links directly or indirectly. The agency has also promised to keep the public updated as progress is made on the investigation and called on members of the public to refrain from initiating any acts of misinformation and disinformation that has the propensity to undermine the ongoing investigation. At the same time, the Liberian government, through the Ministry of Justice, has confirmed that the consignment of buses it intercepted at the Rabat International Airport reveals the presence of illicit drugs. According to a Ministry of Information release, as part of the Liberia Drugs Enforcement Agency's investigation, which included scientific examination, samples tested revealed the presence of methamphetamine, which is bound under the rules of United Nations Office of Drugs and Crimes. The release said the Minister of Justice, Consider Musadin, has with immediate effect ordered the joint security of Liberia, as well as the LDEA, LMP, and the NSA to expand their investigations on the importation of the illegal drugs with the aim of bringing to justice all those involved. According to him, the public will be duly updated as progress is made on the investigation and in the wider fight against illicit drugs and transnational criminals. Ahead of the October 10 general and presidential elections, the National Elections Commission says it has begun receiving materials for the conduct of the elections. According to an NEC release, electoral stakeholders have been informed of the commencement of this process, which marks a significant milestone in the election preparations. The release named ballot boxes as well as yellowed and gray precinct kits, which are currently at the Commission's central warehouse. Furthermore, the NEC said it has also taken delivery of mock or sample ballots designed to cover all categories of elections, including President, Senate, and House of Representatives. These sample ballots will be used for training purposes, ensuring that election officials are well prepared for the upcoming polls. In a commendable effort to ensure inclusive tactile ballot guides for the visually impaired have been received, along with various stationery materials required for the smooth conduct of the elections. Additionally, the NEC says it anticipates the arrival of additional materials in the coming days, further strengthening their election preparedness. The Liberia National Red Cross Society says it has completed the distribution of assorted relief materials to at least 21 families in Robertsport, Grand Cape Mount County. The families were badly affected by multiple hazards following flooding in the county. According to a Red Cross press release, the relief packages provided by the Liberian Red Cross and the National Disaster Management Agency included essential items such as rice, sleeping mats, tarpaulins, buckets, and blankets, and a collection of much needed used clothes. The Red Cross also supported 6 individuals with special cases, including pregnant women, to ensure their specific needs were addressed during this critical time. In Cool Town, a fishing community recently hit by sea erosion and flooding following days of heavy rainfall. The heavy downpour and subsequent flooding have caused significant damage to homes and infrastructure in communities in Grand Cape Mount County, Bonk, and Montserrado, displacing residents and leaving them in urgent need to support, the Liberian Red Cross said. While relief efforts have already begun, the Red Cross says it continues to assess the full extent of the flooding's impact on communities in Bon County. Liberian Red Cross Secretary General Gregory Blambo said their teams are on the ground conducting further assessments to accurately determine the immediate and long-term needs of the affected areas. However, due to limited stocks of supplies to address the extremely devastating impact of the flooding, the Liberian Red Cross has recently launched a local appeal for 20,000 USD to support communities to recover quickly and build resilience against future disasters. Female presidential candidate Sarah Beslow Yanti has received a major boost to her presidential bid following an elaborate endorsement by the Muslim community in Montserrat County. This is one of the several endorsements Madame Beslow Yanti has received since she announced her ambition to run for president in the pending October elections. Speaking at the endorsement recently, the former United Nations Assistant Secretary General said Liberians from diverse backgrounds, irrespective of religious, tribal, or political affiliations, can unite and rebuild the country in love and harmony. Madame Yanti, who is widely referred to as Prophet a doctor, said she envisaged a Liberia where every individual will benefit from the resources of the country and have access to their rights regardless of their age, ethnicity, creed, or political attachments. The Liberian National Bar Association has welcomed recent statements from the U.S. Embassy calling on the government of Liberia to ensure that the pending October 10, 2023 presidential and general elections are fair, free, and peaceful. The United States government, through its Shashi Affairs of the U.S. Embassy near Monrovia, Catherine Rodriguez at her first press roundtable indicated recently that the United States is also prepared to assist in efforts to keep these elections free, fair, and peaceful by holding accountable anyone responsible for engaging in activities to undermine the democratic election process in Liberia through additional measures such as sanctions. The LMBA in a release says the U.S. government, bilateral and multilateral partners called on the government of Liberia to invest an adequate level of money, personnel, and organizational resources to protect citizens, candidates, polling stations, and election workers from intimidation or harm cannot be overemphasized during the period of the elections. In a related development, the LNBS says it is in full agreement with the former chairman of the Electoral Commission of Ghana, Dr. Kwado Afari Gwan, that manipulation of electoral results in recent times has taken place at collation centers. Dr. Afari Gwan made the statement when he spoke on the topic of free and fair election at the third annual conference of NDC Lawyers Association at Akosombo in the eastern region of Ghana last week. In the wake of the recent statement, by one of the world's most accomplished electoral experts, Dr. Afari Gwan. The LMBA has called on the National Elections Commission to institute a robust polling and results management processes with clear procedures and instructions in a manner known to the stakeholders ahead of elections. With less than a month to the presidential and legislative elections, the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia has emphasized the need for citizens to properly examine candidates vying for public offices. Central, through its executive director, Anderson Yemen, reminded Liberians that voting corrupt individuals will stall the development and progress of the country. He also reminded political leaders and candidates of their role and responsibility to upholding the Farmington River Declaration. Criminal Court A has granted former Chief Justice Gloria Musu's court lawyers permission to visit the crime scene and to conduct an autopsy on the remains of the late Charlo Musu, but with conditions. This followed Judge Roosevelt released September 12, 2023 decision when he approved defendants' court's legal team's bill of information in connection to their two separate requests to the court. Judge Willie, according to RCA judicial correspondent, said that defense lawyers will be allowed to go on the crime scene, but with representatives from prosecuting lawyers, the Liberia National Police, and the court. A representative candidate in District Number 2, Monticello County, has underscored the need to empower small business owners, especially market women, to boost the Liberian economy. Bishop Nimle Doyen said, supporting local business women with microloans and improved market facilities will alleviate poverty and impact the economy at large. Speaking recently during his tour of about 10 markets across District 2, Bishop Doyen vowed to improve the markets with storage and warehouse facilities if elected comes October. Workers at Tor Farm in Todi District, Monticello County, have expressed concerns about lack of basic social services. The workers of the rubber farm also complained about the management's failure to reconstruct the damaged bridge that connects several towns and villages. The farm is said to be owned by former Agriculture Minister Christopher Toll. The acting manager of the farm, Roland Tal, speaking with our Todi District correspondent, admitted to the deplorable condition of the bridge and said management has purchased cement to start a reconstruction. The Liability Foundation has presented a flat screen television along with free DSTV installation at the Youth Center of the United Brethren Association of FDA Bernard Farm Community, District Number 4, Montserrat County. According to the chairman of the Liability Foundation, Momo Oyen, the presentation was in fulfillment of CPP's District Number 4 representative candidate, liability promise to the citizens and youth of FDA community. Yen described liability as a man who believes in the development of the youths. As such, his focus is on youth and women empowerment. Away from Liberia, about 10,000 people are thought to be missing following major floods in Libya, according to an official from the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. Tamar Ramadan, the head of the RFRC delegation in Libya, said they can confirm from their independent sources of information that the number of missing people is hitting 10,000 so far. Widespread flooding and mudslides caused by torrential rain have destroyed many roads and homes, according to the BBC. We're Hansen, that's the news bulletin.
Thanks to Oliver Bound with the news bulletin and the foreign development. The news bulletin is a regular feature on the news program News Dex. If you are just joining us in the top developments we are following, RRA Chief of Security Samuel Freeman suspended indefinitely for his alleged role in the smuggling of cargo through an unauthorized gate as Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency confirms that the 10 buses confiscated at the airport contain illegal drugs. Ahead of the October 10th general and presidential elections, the National Elections Commission announces the arrival of materials for the conduct of the elections. Following recent flooding in Ravaspo City, Liberia National Red Cross Society completes the distribution of assorted relief materials to at least 21 families in Grand Cape Mount County. And in foreign news, about 10,000 people are reported missing following major floods in Libya, according to the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. Let's bring you the voices of the newsmakers. The Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency has launched an investigation into the seizure of suspected illicit substance at the Ravas International Airport. It can be recalled boxes suspected to be drug were seized at the RIA by personnel of the Armed Forces of Liberia and was turned over to the LDA for examination. Speaking to RSN News Tuesday, the Director of Public Affairs at the LDA, Margaret Jubilee said the investigation results show that the boxes contain illegal drug.
Yesterday, following the opening of these boxes, substances that were discovered therein were believed to be something of a narcotic drug, but that couldn't satisfy our curiosity enough. So it was decided that we had those tested, and we brought a sample of tested. Of course, following the test, the results proved to be methamphetamine. And currently, as we speak, we issued a press release this morning to that effect, confirming the test of the drug, and we are also ensuring that the suspect connected of informing the public about a step-by-step involving the investigations, and we also for him to come with the version of the investigation can be done.
Margaret is the Director of Communications at the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency there. Speaking, female presidential candidate Sarah Besto has received a major boost to her presidential bid following an elaborate endorsement by the Muslim community in Montserrat County. This is one of several endorsements Madame Besto has received since she announced her ambition to run for president in the pending October elections. Speaking at the endorsement recently, the former United Nations Assistant Secretary General said Liberians from diverse backgrounds, irrespective of religious, tribal, or political affiliations, can unite and rebuild the country in love and harmony. With less than a month through the presidential and legislative elections, the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia Center has emphasized the need for citizens to properly examine candidates vying for public offices. Centatua's Executive Director Anas Imiani reminded Liberians that voting corrupt individuals will stall the development and progress of the country. He also reminded political leaders and candidates of their role and responsibility to upholding the Farmington River Declaration.
We would like to appreciate Liberians for their largely peaceful participation in the ongoing campaign activities, which are key components of the ensuing presidential and legislative elections. As the election date gets nearer, we would again like to remind the various political parties and candidates about their responsibility to uphold the Farmington Declaration, which was signed on April 4, 2023, demanding peaceful, free, fair, and credible elections. Also, CENTAR would like to remind Liberians about the need to properly examine the various candidates vying for public offices. Voting for corrupt and bad leaders would mean stalling development and progress of Liberia or the country. So, be careful whom you vote for, as you will have to live with the consequences of your October 10, 2023 decisions or choices for the next 6 to 9 years.
Meanwhile, the Center Executive Director has welcomed the confirmation of 7 commissioners of the Liberian Anti-Corruption Commission by the Liberian Senate. The 7 commissioners were nominated by President Weah on June 8 this year and were confirmed on September 6. Speaking Tuesday at a press conference, Miami noted that Liberia needs a robust, independent, and well-resourced, public-driven anti-corruption commission, something he said is important as corruption is becoming pervasive in Liberia, especially in the public sector.
On September 6, 2023, the Liberian Senate confirmed the 7 commissioners of the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission who were nominated by the President on June 8, 2023. Those confirmed by the Liberian Senate included Councilor Alexandra Zoe, Chairperson, Mr. Ernest Arahodges, Vice Chairperson, and Mr. Randolph E. Tepps, Commissioner for Monitoring and Investigation. Dr. Miata Jay and Anthony Samuel F. Dakina were confirmed as Commissioners for Monitoring and Investigation, while Councilor Orita Snyder Davis and Councilor David B. Wessing were confirmed as Commissioners for Prosecution, respectively. CENTAR commends the government of Liberia and its partners and civil society organizations for their roles played throughout the process, which led to the vetting of the Liberian, their nomination by the President and subsequent confirmation by the Liberian Senate. Essentially, also, we like to commend the outgoing leadership of LACC, especially Councilor Edwin Clamati and his team, for bringing relative stability and sanctity to the Commission after a turbulent past, as the Commission was largely in the media for the wrong reason. The new batch of officials have an appreciable foundation upon which they can build. Fellow Liberians, Liberia needs a robust, independent, well-resourced, and a public interest-driven LACC more than ever before. This is particularly important as corruption is becoming pervasive in Liberia, especially in the public sector. Government's 26 score out of a possible 100 on the 2022 Corruption Perception Index, CPI, of Transparency International, shows the scale of the problem at hand. The lack of action against public officials sanctioned by the United States government for alleged significant corruption shows lack of will and extreme weakness in the Liberian government's anti-corruption effort.
Anderson Miamin is the Executive Director for the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia Center. They're speaking at a news conference in Monrovia on Tuesday. The Liability Foundation has presented a flash screen television along with free DSTV installation at the Youth Center of the United Brothers Association of FDA Banafan Community District 4, Mansourati County. According to the chairman of the Liability Foundation, Momo Yen, the presentation was in fulfillment of CPP District 4 Representative candidate liability promised to the citizens and youth of FDA community. Speaking during the presentation of the items on behalf of the Liability Foundation, Yen showed the gathering of the possible installation of DSTV at the Youth Center this Wednesday. In a related development, an eminent member of the Liability Foundation, Janka Kamara, has outlined activities leading to the upcoming district tournament and the installation of solar lights across FDA community. Several initiatives from the Liability Foundation at the end of the tournament, adding that the winners will walk away with 150,000 Liberian dollars. Brothers Association Jones noted and editor of the FDA community, Tatus Papa, thank Liability for the initiatives. Voices of John Slunted and Paptatas Papa. Edit, you also listen to the voice of Janka Kamarad and the chairman of the Liability Foundation, Momo Yen. They're bringing us to the sporting developments on the news program. Let's now welcome Edin Dole. Edin, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Hansen. Good evening, our listeners. Welcome to the sports news. The Black Stars of Ghana defeated Liberia 3-1 in a friendly match Tuesday at Accra Stadium in Ghana. Goals from new Western United player Mohamed Kudus and Ernest Uman, as well as Jordan Ayew, gave Ghana a 3-1 win over the Lone Star of Liberia. The game played at the deployable Accra Sports Stadium saw substitute Devante scoring Liberia's lone goal in 90 plus at the time. Liberia Africa Cup of Nations qualifier match with Morocco was postponed by the Confederation of African Football due to the deadly earthquake that left more than 2,800 people dead, according to media reports. CAF said in a statement that the new date for the match and other details will be announced in due course. The Black Star, who recently broke a spot in next January Africa Cup of Nations qualifier after defeating Central African Republic, spent days at the Accra Stadium preparing for the international training. Another Nation One Academy student has obtained an athletic scholarship in Boston, United States of America, according to Nations One director Milton Yoko. Student Frank Parr, who left for the United States recently, will study at the Fitzidant School in Boston. Yoko, a sports enthusiast and Representative Kennedy in District Number 6, Massachusetts County, said he discovered Frank Parr few years back in Maryland County during a trial process. He said Frank Tripp brings to three the number of students that have left for education and trial, according to Yoko Darlington. Dolo left earlier this year for a trial in the United Kingdom, while Henry Brown also left for an athletic scholarship in the United States. Here is the District Moses Representative Kennedy. The voice of District Number 6 Representative Kennedy Milton Yoko, and finally the Confederation of African Football broke its contract with beIN Sports because it owed nearly 100 million by the Qatari media group, a source has told the BBC. On September 1, CAF unilaterally ended a 12-year contract worth 415 million, which ran from 2017 to 2028 with immediate effect. Shortly after the Nations Cup ended that month, CAF and beIN met to resume talks regarding the better concerns about how the rights its purchase had been affected by the coronavirus pandemic. beIN has been keen to reduce the total sum of its contract given the COVID-enforced cancellation of two events, the 2020 Women's Africa Cup of Nations and the 2021 Under-17 Nations Cup it had previously agreed to pay for. Well, and seeing that's the latest on our sports decks.
Thanks to Erin Dodo for the sporting development. Sports is a regular segment on the news program News Desk. Let's bring you this development. A Representative Kennedy in District 2 Montserrat County has underscored the need to empower small business owners, especially market women, to boost the Liberian economy. Bishop Nimland says supporting local business women with micro loans and improved market facilities will alleviate poverty and impact the economy at large. He made this statement during a tour of various markets in the district, as you would hear in this report filed by our reporter Margaret Davis. Thanks to Margaret Davis for that report, bringing us to the end of today's edition of the news program, News Desk. But as we take leave of you, these are the top stories we have been following on the news program. RRA Chief of Security Samuel Freeman suspended indefinitely for his alleged role in the smuggling of cargo through an unauthorized gate, as Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency confirms that 18 buses confiscated at the airport contain illegal drugs. Ahead of the October 10 general and presidential elections, the National Elections Commission announces the arrival of materials for the conduct of the elections. Following recent flood in Robertsport City, Liberia National Record Society completes the distribution of assorted relief materials to at least 21 families in Grand Pond County. And in foreign news, about 10,000 people are reported missing following major floods in Libya, according to the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. Thanks to our correspondents, writers, reporters, editors, and those who helped in making this September 12, 2023 edition of News Desk a success. Olivia Bound read for us the news bulletin, the foreign development. Edwin Dolo Fata in the sporting developments. Johnson Patoma ably coordinated the voices of the newsmakers. And of course, Maya Torbian and Kopa Sankar ably coordinated this production of the news program. For and on behalf of the news team, my name is Hanson Decker. Good evening.
When it comes to communication in Liberia, Orange is number one.
Orange is the best. Orange is the best. Oh, Orange